Flying into Australia to race at Albert Park in Melbourne has been the traditional way of beginning a new Formula One season for 16 of the past 18 years. Round one of the 2013 title race comes from the Garden City in Victoria State. But the Skyborne watering can has been having a bit of an effect on the track this weekend. We might be in Australia, where up till now they've been suffering a heat wave, but that's not the case this weekend. And although the track is currently dry, we've got a track temperature of 24 degrees. The air temperature is only 18 degrees, and there is some cloud bubbling up around us. And David, the other thing, as we look at the track layout here, is all this rain has cleaned the track off. So there is a risk, of course, that the tyres are going to be under more wear conditions effectively going into this race than they would normally be.
Well, I was out on track in an old Formula One car earlier. In comparison to Saturday, there was definitely more understeer when I was doing the demonstration laps earlier, and that's the effect of the front tyres scrubbing across the track surface, and that's because the rubber, as you mentioned, Ben, has just been washed away by the heavy rain we've seen over the last 24 hours. So this will have a huge effect on the fragility of the Pirelli tyres and its tendency to grain by overworking that front tyre. Of course, as they sit there on the grid, we look at Nico Rosberg. They've now got about 155 kilos of fuel on board, which when you consider in qualifying they would do their fastest lap with just enough fuel to get them out, get them round and back in again, so anything around 10 kilos of fuel. So they've now got two reasonably sized passengers strapped in the back of that car.
We're just looking at a few of those cars, as you say. We saw Alonso. There's Massa, who was out-qualified Alonso for the third consecutive time, if you look at the end of last season. So definitely seeing an improvement in form from the Brazilian. But let's take a look at the grid then. Sebastian Vettel lining up on pole position here with Mark Webber alongside for Red Bull. Then it's Lewis Hamilton on his debut for Mercedes with Felipe Massa in that fourth place for Ferrari. His teammate Alonso is fifth. And then Nico Rosberg in the second. Mercedes is sixth. We've got the two Lotuses who feel they qualified further down than expected. Watch them in the race, Raikkonen and Grosjean. Then Paul di Resta starting 9th and Jenson Button 10th, but struggling with the McLaren in the dry. He wants it wet. Nico Hülkenberg is not starting, so there's a gap where he should be. Adrian Sutil starts 12th. Then Jean-Eric Vergne and Daniel Ricciardo, the two Toro Rosso teammates, are on row number 7 of the grid. Sergio Perez on his McLaren debut is only 15th, and the new boy Valtteri Bottas for Williams is 16th. Maldonado for Williams is next up in 17th place. Then Gutierrez on his debut is 18th. More rookies here, Jules Bianchi and Max Chilton making their debuts from 19th and 20th places, as is Guido van der Garde. And then we've got Charles Pic bringing up the rear, who struggled in qualifying with an off, and that's what put him right at the back and behind the other guys who are actually making their debuts in Formula One, whereas of course he's had a season's racing already for the Marussia team. So that's how the grid lines up, and of course Sebastian Vettel trying to win this race once again. If he can do so, it would be his second victory around the Albert Park circuit. He was leading the race back in 2010, but they had a wheel failure. It was an odd occurrence, but it was unlucky for Sebastian Vettel on that occasion. Lewis Hamilton here, great debut so far for Mercedes, into his 7th year of Formula One, but this is his first ever year at a team other than McLaren, and all eyes are on him to see how he makes progress. Mark Webber there, the oldest driver in Formula One now at 36 years of age. We've got a 15-year spread between them now. We've got two 21-year-olds, Esteban Gutierrez and Max Chilton, and then we go all the way up to 36 with Mark Webber. But we've lost our 40-year-olds in the likes of Michael Schumacher and Pedro de la Rosa, no longer a part of Formula One this year. And then on pole position then, there is Sebastian Vettel, the 3 times world champion. And interestingly, today, David, he could match Jackie Stewart in terms of number of overall race victories. If he wins today, it would be his 27th career win.
Well, who's going to bet against him? It'll all come down to, if we put weather conditions to one side, historically, he who leads at the end of the first lap around this circuit is a very difficult track to overtake, even with the double DRS zone, has the best advantage. And there's those tyres with some pickup.
So we're just waiting for the start of the formation lap. We're getting a bit of an idea now on which tyres are going to be used. It does look as though most of the people behind the top 10 who have to start on the super soft, there's a bit of a mixture behind. Sutil has gone for the medium compound tyre, the harder tyre, and there's split strategy, interestingly, at Toro Rosso. 60 years ago, Melbourne hosted its first Grand Prix, a non-championship event won by an Australian driver in a French car. Today, an Australian has a chance to win his home event in a car powered by a French engine. But to achieve that, Mark Webber has to beat his teammate, 3 times world champion Sebastian Vettel. They are on the front row and they're heading around on the formation lap. Lewis Hamilton behind for Mercedes, and then the 2 Ferraris. So it's going to be a tough fight up front. But interestingly, some of the teams outside the top 10 have gone for a different tyre strategy. Now, Gary's here to explain that. Gary, why would some of the other teams go for the harder compound to start this race?
Well, the medium tyre is a much more durable tyre. They should be able to get to lap 20, 22 and really try and overtake some people during the pit stops. The top 10 starting on the tyre they qualified with, they're already used, they're grained a little bit, so they'll struggle for those first laps. They'll probably be pitting lap 8 to 12, somewhere around that period.
So if we see anybody making a pit stop around lap 5 or lap 6, they're really in trouble. Tell me what happens if we get an early safety car. Then will we see a lot of pit stops?
Yeah, I imagine they'll dive in pretty quickly. I mean, for me, I would have said it's very difficult, but I would have started on the medium tyre.
Okay, there's obviously a threat to the rain on the radar. It certainly feels a lot cooler now. There have been a few showers spotted about 20 k's away. So they were on the past the circuit, but it looks like they're decreasing now. So at the moment we expect dry.
So expecting dry, but the possibility of showers. So thanks to Gary. It certainly is going to be a fascinating race, this one, as ever, in Formula One. But the grey clouds overhead. We had some good blue sky for a little while over lunchtime, but of course now local time here is 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And that certainly means that we're looking at a slightly more cloudy outlook now. Now, it's interestingly, on the pit lane radio, Sebastian Vettel has been told by Red Bull that they have no telemetry, so make sure you've gone through all the gears, make sure all the systems are working. That's not a good start for Vettel if the telemetry is not running. It just means that the team is running a bit blind. It doesn't mean that there's a problem with the car, but it means that they're just not receiving all the information that they want from the car. Confirmation that Nico Hülkenberg is not starting this race. A fuel system problem with the Sauber. The team feeling it's not safe for him to take his place on the grid and start this race. Pat Fry on the right, his birthday today, the Ferrari technical director. Let's quickly run you through that grid again. It's Sebastian Vettel on pole position, Mark Webber alongside on the front row, Hamilton and Massa on row 2, then Alonso with Nico Rosberg, then Raikkonen and Grosjean, Di Resta and Button in 10th. 11th should have been Hülkenberg, but he's not starting. So we've got Sutil 12th, Jean-Eric Vergne and Daniel Ricciardo in the Toro Rossos on a mixed tyre strategy there. And then behind Ricciardo we've got Perez and his debut for McLaren, Bottas, his debut for Williams, Maldonado lines up 17th. Then the new guys, Gutierrez, Bianchi and Chilton, with Guido van der Garde, the first Dutch driver in Formula One since 2007. And then at the back, the Frenchman Charles Pic in the second of the 2 green and yellow Caterhams. All the cars are now in position. We are ready to go racing in 2013. Lights out, away we go, and it's a good start from poleman, but look at Felipe Massa coming down the inside. Mark Webber making a terrible start like he did last year, and into the lead. It's Vettel straight away, Massa up into second place. Have they made it through turn 1? Well, pretty well. Often an incident. The 2 Ferraris are fighting with the Mercedes there, and Hamilton is trying to squeeze down the inside. A little bit of a knock-up. Massa still in second place. Alonso goes around the outside of Hamilton, and Alonso gets into third.
Brave stuff there from Alonso. Saw the opportunity and jumped at it. As Hamilton, with these cars heavy with fuel, just a little bit cautious. And major change, of course, in the balance. It could be a strategic decision from Lewis not to push too hard in these opening laps to try and eke out an extra lap or 2 from these option tyres.
So Massa's in second behind Vettel. Webber was the one who made a really poor start, just like last year, although last year he got caught in an incident as a result of that. Battling going on further back down the field. And I think, was that Ricciardo right down towards the back? It was one of the Toro Rossos in a bit of trouble. And Hamilton now coming under some serious pressure from Kimi Raikkonen in the Lotus
and
here.
Massa is going to be passed by Alonso. He had the run on him out the high-speed chicane going round the outside. I wouldn't expect too much of a fight there.
Oh, and Kimi Räikkönen going around the outside of Hamilton. They almost touch. They just give each other enough space, and I think Massa might have got back past Alonso. We'll take another look at that. Yeah, Massa's in front of Alonso, so he didn't quite get past there. Alonso went for it, and Räikkönen also went for it, but nothing came from that. Rosberg is running in 6th place, then Webber all the way down in 7th.
Well, that confirms Ferrari, no team orders there this early in the season. They are going racing. We're hearing that there's a few spits of rain in the pit lane as Räikkönen looks round the outside of Hamilton. No room there, but he needs to be careful that he doesn't have Rosberg taking a run on him on the run down into turn 3.
Yeah, that's right, because Rosberg had a great run there. Kimi goes down the outside. Lewis Hamilton really having to be defensive at this early stage of the race in the Mercedes. His first ever race for Mercedes, but it's not looking that easy at this early point. Rosberg behind, then Webber. Di Resta's running 8th. Button is in 9th place. Soutel is 10th. Then we've got Grosjean, the other Lotus, down in 11th place. Perez in 12th, so he's made a few places, Sergio Perez in the other McLaren. Bottas is 13th, so good start from him in the Williams. Then we've got Verne and Maldonado. No change in this little group right now, but you can see Romain Grosjean just moving the Lotus around. There he is, and he's ahead of Sergio Perez, the young Mexican who has now joined the McLaren Mercedes team.
Perez on the medium tyre, and as you see them all run through, there's Perez in shot. You can see the white or silver on the side of his tyres that denotes that medium tyre.
Sebastian Vettel trying to make a bit of a break here as ever. Of course, he's got a 2-second lead currently. So Lewis Hamilton there's been the change there, isn't it? So Kimi Räikkönen has got past Lewis Hamilton, and now Hamilton with Nico Rosberg, his teammate, behind. So the Lotus now ahead of the Mercedes, and as they come across the line, Vettel advantage actually has reduced slightly over Massa. 1.8 seconds now. Watch Kimi Räikkönen. I know from talking to the guys at Lotus that they are very confident with the tyre degradation on that car. They think it's going to last well in the race. Now, this is how Räikkönen managed to get past Lewis Hamilton, David.
Well, that's round the outside under braking into turn 13, and in this case, Lewis Hamilton, very fair. He could have run him wide, but recognised it's more important at this stage to be looking after those tyres. The strategy on these early laps, top 10, of course, had to start on the tyre they qualified, and a lot of fear over the potential graining. Let's keep an eye on those tyres to see. You can just see telltale signs on the rear tyre of the Red Bull, and Massa has actually closed the gap slightly to Vettel by a couple of tenths as they enter this 3rd lap. So Ferrari looking pretty racy at this stage.
Yeah, looking good on their tyres, which is also what I'd heard from the paddock, that watch the Ferraris, they are going to look after their tyres better perhaps than even Red Bull, and that is looking the case. Vettel's tyres didn't look so good after practice or after qualifying earlier today. You're on board with Mark Webber. Terrible getaway from him once again here today, David.
You can see a little spot of rain there appearing on the in-car camera, and strategy, if the rain does start to come, will be absolutely crucial. Whether you get lucky that you just happen to be in this last sequence of corners when the rain comes and you can dive into the pits, but again, another poor start. You know, there normally is an offset from the clean side of the grid, the left side of the grid, all of the odd numbers, and the even side on the left side of shot there. But at this track, the teams don't actually say there's a big offset in performance in the run to the first corner.
Now, just a quick note, further down the order, Gilles Bianchi in the Marussia has had a brilliant start and first few laps, and he's running in 16th place. He's ahead of the Williams of Maldonado. Van der Gaard's had a pretty good opening lap as well. Battles going on, bit of a lock-up there, but just about holding it together. Di Resta versus Button, that isn't there. Grosjean with Perez right behind him. Still no change in that, but the young Frenchman, who had a tough season last year, was very fast on many occasions, but got himself involved in too many incidents. There he is in the Lotus, chased by Sergio Perez, who earned those 3 podium finishes when he drove for Sauber, but now of course he's driving for McLaren, and the expectation is that much greater.
Well, good clean getaway there from Sebastian Vettel, but Mark Webber is swamped. Massa goes right, Alonso there goes left, and then surprisingly and amazingly a few lockups but no contact as they go through 1 and 2. We've seen that many times in the past 5 of the last 6 years. We've had the safety car deployed. Just sounds like he got too much wheel spin at the last phase of the launch and swamped.
Everybody all over him. I just was looking as well at the Yeah, Kimi Raikkonen got a good run there. Let's just watch it from Fernando Alonso's point of view.
Listen to that. It bogged down initially, which is good, and then it released, and he had to lift off slightly as it all got a bit close there at the back of Hamilton. And then out of the turn, when you're that close to the car in front, you're losing downforce, but he's able to cut to the left, and then as they approach the braking down into turn 3, positions himself on the outside, leaves some space from Hamilton. These guys are mature racers. Here's Perez. He went from 15th up to 11th. He's now running on track. Nice and conservative on the brakes. Look out, see if there's any incidents. Oh, almost giving the back of Suttel a little kiss there. And we've got Button into the pits. He's just changing
been in.
tyres.
Just been into the pits.
Gone for the medium bend.
So that's interesting, getting rid of the tyres which we knew were very worn. Meanwhile, good little race going on further back. Grosjean. Now, where's Perez in all of that? Perez has got past Grosjean. And by the way, up front, we've also got a race on because Vettel's only 0.8 of a second ahead of Massa. The Ferraris are catching the Red Bull that is leading this race. Meanwhile, Grosjean, as you see, has dropped back. Now, the two Force Indias are together. Di Resta's in 8th place. Adrian Suttel, who has rejoined this team after a year out of Formula One, is tucked in behind. He's running in 9th position, and just up ahead of them is Mark Webber. Now, this is encouraging from Force India's point of view. There is the Red Bull of Mark Webber, and he's really not getting away from them.
No, I think Force India have felt pretty happy in winter testing with the developments they put on that car. Certainly at this stage of the Grand Prix, they're holding together. Mark Webber in the pits.
Yeah, so Mark Webber in the pits, and you had a shot there also of Vettel's lead, which has been diminished, is down to 0.7 of a second now over Felipe Massa and Fernando Alonso. The two Ferraris are definitely staying with the Red Bull of Sebastian Vettel, and Webber having to make a very, very early stop indeed. Lap 5, and he's into the pits, and you would think this has to be a 3-stop race for Mark Webber, and it's a slow stop as well. So Australia again not being kind to Mark Webber. He's never finished in the top 3 here, and it doesn't look like he's going to do it on this occasion.
No, well, if Sebastian has blown his tyres early, they've gone off the edge of the cliff, he'll need to pit this lap. That will leave Ferrari to try and exploit the extra lap time, and if they can pull a second or so faster than they're currently running, then they might be able to jump him in that first round of pit stops. Here's the replay of Perez getting past the Lotus. It's down into the braking zone into turn 1. You heard him buzzing into the limiter, but in the end, a clean pass.
Yeah, and this is Ricciardo getting past Van der Garde. Something happened to Ricciardo on that opening lap on the start, and he dropped right down to the back, but he is picking places up now. He's 14th, but Bianchi's still ahead of him. Jules Bianchi in the Marussia is still in 13th place as we come back to see the leaders.
Yeah, and just saw behind them there, I think it was Charles Peake in the Caterham, his front left end plate flapping in the wind, so it must have made some contact around the beginning of the lap, so we should keep an eye on that at the pit stop to see whether they need to either pull that broken piece off or go for a nose change.
The lead still 0.8 of a second. Of course, DRS is enabled. That reduces the drag in 2 areas on this Albert Park circuit. The straight that we've just been down, and now this next straight. You see the flap, the rear wing flap on Massa's car and on Alonso's cars operating, not on the lead car, of course. It only applies to cars that are behind another by less than a second. So that gives the Ferraris a chance to catch up a little bit. But Kimi Raikkonen, who is in 4th place behind these guys, is actually lapping a little faster. So Ferrari, I think, are being held up, actually, if anything, a little bit, maybe, behind the Red Bull.
Well, unquestionably, the gap was out at 2 seconds. They've now pulled it down to under a second, which is about as close as you can get in dirty air. The fresh air has been taken, it's been stolen from the Ferraris by that Red Bull, and the dirty air is then given to Massa, and even dirtier air is given to Alonso. So, interestingly for me, Alonso looks like the quicker of the 2 Ferrari drivers. Massa is there on merit. He out-qualified him, but that's allowing Raikkonen to catch up to them. So Ferrari just going for let's let them race and see what happens. But I expect Alonso will be getting a little bit frustrated there as he has to try and live with the scraps of that dirty air that's coming off the first 2 cars.
Just seen Max Chilton exit the pits after his first Formula One pit stop from my vantage point, but the leaders coming through these last couple, and in comes Vettel. So Red Bull have had to bail out. He's done 6 laps. We're on to lap 7, and the new race leader here is Felipe Massa. Vettel brings the Red Bull into the pit lane, and who would have thought that? Felipe Massa leading. It's 1-2 for Ferrari in the early stages. But, of course, they've got to cycle through their pit stops. Very encouraging, though, for Ferrari, and that good tyre use is looking fine at the moment for Ferrari. Good stop, though, by Red Bull. Sends him on his way.
Well, what's going to be crucial here is let's keep an eye on Massa and Alonso's sector times to see if they're able to unleash some extra performance now that they're not being held up by the Red Bull. And that's going to be absolutely crucial for when they do make their stop. Can they leapfrog him in the pits?
So let's bring you the top three. It's now Massa, Alonso, Raikkonen. Hamilton, by the way, is still up there in 4th place. He might not have had the pace of the front runners. Bit of tyre marking there. How would you read that on the right front, David?
Yeah, a little bit of greening on the outer part of the front right tyre. You'll see it increase as we approach the high-speed chicane, turn 11 and 12. But Massa, actually, he's been released into some clean air. Raikkonen there, you can see, quicker than the two of them in that first sector, and in the second sector as Alonso gets messy. That'll allow Raikkonen to close up as they approach turn 13. And Massa looking pretty good out front right now. It's Alonso who's having to take the big risks running it out onto the artificial grass. Now, is he going to blink this lap and head in, or are they going to give that advantage to Massa? Massa takes it, he's in the pits. So
Massa into the pit lane, and now it is going to be Fernando Alonso who leads, but how are his tyres holding up? We'll check it. He did a 1:34.8 last time around, a 1:34.6 this time, but behind him, Kimi Raikkonen, nearly a second faster, about 0.8 of a second faster. Let's watch this pit stop for Felipe Massa, who seems to be driving at the sort of level that we saw when he was fighting for the World Championship, and so nearly won it back in 2008. And it's that long since Massa has won a race. Now he comes back out. Where is Vettel? Vettel and Massa, they're going to be close, but it's Vettel who gets in front of the Ferrari still. So for Red Bull, that did work. It kept him ahead.
You know what made it work? Vettel, fastest of all in that middle sector, 24.4. Almost the best part of a second quicker than what the Ferraris were able to do. So good strategic play there from Red Bull. Those medium tyres, he's had to hit them hard, which might affect them later in their life, but crucially it's kept him in track position.
And also we need to keep an eye on the leaders, because Alonso and Raikkonen were only separated by 0.4 of a second. So there you are. That's how close the Lotus is now to the back of the Ferrari. These two world champions going at it hard in the opening laps of the Australian Grand Prix. And Fernando Alonso with just the positional advantage, but the Lotus, I would say, with a pace advantage at this stage. And look at the back end of the Ferrari. He is definitely in trouble with those tyres now. Surely you'll see Alonso come in. The question is, can Kimi stay out there a little bit longer? Let's see. They're coming to the pit lane exit. Sure, yeah, Alonso's in. Raikkonen's in as well. But you could really see the Ferrari struggling a lot more than the Lotus.
It is indeed, and that's he's really had to underspeed the car there as he locked up to the actual pit limit line, so that'll allow Raikkonen to close up a little bit. This is now a battle of the pit stops. It's advantage Ferrari, of course, because they're further down the pit lane. Can't afford any mistakes. Well, almost identical pit lane times.
Now, where's Vettel? Well, Vettel's coming down start-finish straight now. I think he's going to be well ahead. Yes, he is. Where is Massa? There is Massa, who's going to effectively take second, although it's not, because Hamilton is still leading, and off goes the Williams, and that is Maldonado. Yeah, Maldonado, who runs off the track. Thankfully, doesn't affect either of the others. So Hamilton leads this race. Interestingly, the Mercedes going quite deep, because Rosberg has also not been into the pits yet. So you remember how hard Mercedes were on their tyres last year? Well, they might not have had the initial pace here, and you did wonder at the beginning of this race whether they were looking after their tyres. Hamilton now onto lap 9, and he's still not come into the pits, and he leads the race.
Yeah, interestingly, at the pit stop, Massa has been given an extra half a degree of front wing, just putting a little bit more front load on that car to account for the prime tyre. Now, the consequence of that is that it throws a little bit more air over the car, can actually have the effect of taking away some rear performance as well. But if you've got balance, well, downforce is king, but after downforce you want balance.
Well, Nico Hulkenberg was unable to take the start of this race. Let's hear why. Manisha Kaltenbaum is talking to Lee McKenzie.
Oh, Manisha, desperately disappointing start for Sauber and Nico. What's the problem?
Well, just when we were doing the fire up, we realized we had an issue with the fuel system, and we couldn't quite detect it, so we decided that for safety reasons we'll not drive the car.
How did Nico take the news?
Well, he's obviously not happy at all. I mean, for him it's a big disappointment. I think he's never been actually very lucky on this track. Well, neither have we often, so we have that in common. But no, I think it's for the whole team. This a big disappointment because we could see our pace was quite good, and he had a good position to start going to the race. So that's racing, and now we have to make sure we sort it out to the next race.
I hope Esteban goes well. Thanks for talking to us.
Thank you.
Sebastian Vettel has been able to get past Sergio Perez, and that is for position because Perez has not been into the pits as yet. He's staying out there in the McLaren quite a long time, especially bearing in he's on the medium tyre, of course, so he's got that advantage in terms of longevity with the tyre, unlike Button, who had to make an early pit stop on his super soft tyres. And meanwhile, Hamilton leads this race by 3.6 seconds from Nico Rosberg. Mercedes looking to make it a two-stop race, I would think, based on being able to go deeper into the race, whereas some of the other teams may well have to make it a three-stop race. So different strategies will play out as we go through this. Mark Webber, he's currently all the way down in 11th place, having made a single pit stop, and now Massa trying to get past Perez, just enough space.
Well, let's see what happens at the apex. He's had to leave a late turn in, but Perez giving him the room. And this, as you mentioned, is racing for position, and now Alonso's getting up onto the back of Perez. They would have lost probably about the same amount of time that Vettel did getting past the McLaren. But let's just see as they go across the line what the actual gaps are. There's Vettel, your race leader.
Yeah, he's got the DRS in operation, has Alonso, both of them have, but it's a fairly straightforward pass going past the McLaren, and you can see for yourself the lack of pace that McLaren have in the drive. When we think how fast the car was at the end of last year, and indeed the beginning of last year, they won this race, remember, with Jenson Button, but they are definitely struggling. Meanwhile, Sebastian Vettel has been making a little bit more progress.
That's Perez replay, Ben. That's
okay.
What we caught the back end of earlier, and Vettel leaving no room for error there. He left a wide turn in as he goes on the brakes and takes the wide line, leaving space for Perez, and a clean pass.
Kimi Raikkonen's just been going fast. He set the fastest lap of the race now, has Kimi. He has been into the pits, remember. Felipe Massa now, that was how he got past Sergio Perez, no problems, and he was at the apex, but there was room.
The McLaren not only seems to be slow in the corners, it looks slow in a straight line.
Meanwhile, Kimi Raikkonen getting past Perez now. So Perez gradually dropping down the order here, and just keeping an eye on where Alonso is. He's just a little further up ahead of these guys, but still no sign of either of the Mercedes coming in here. And up to third place now, another car that has not yet stopped is Adrian Sutil. So Sutil going deep into the race. He's able to do that because he's on the medium compound, the harder of the two compounds of tyre. Sutil was the best placed of those further back to be able to use a different tyre, and is using it effectively at the moment.
Just looking down to the guys that aren't going to feature on the podium this afternoon, I would suspect, but Maldonado, who started on the medium tyre, has only done 11 laps before bailing on them. So clearly the Williams not at all happy with their overall balance and using up the tyres a little harder than they would like. As we on board here down at turn 8, that's around 172 mile an hour. Excuse me, that was turn 6, and around 100 miles an hour. I was getting my track position wrong, but
This is fascinating, though, because the two Mercedes are definitely running to a different strategy. They have been looking after their tyres from the very opening lap of this race, and we've now got to lap 13, which is impressive on these super soft tyres, which did qualifying earlier on today, and yet they're getting all these laps more out of their tyres than the likes of Ferrari and Lotus. So we've got a real race on our hands here, and Mercedes look well placed. The lap times they're doing are impressive, but are they enough? Because they're doing 1 minute 33s, while the Ferraris and the Lotus are into the 1:31s.
yeah, the rate of the gap going down, it's 9.5 seconds, as was mentioned, between Vettel and the leader Hamilton, but lap time difference is second a lap. And here's Hamilton in the pits.
Right, so at last he's had to come into the pits, but he has achieved a good distance on these tyres. He's done 13 laps. We go on to lap 14. Rosberg stays out there, of course. Hamilton gets the first. He's the lead car at that point in the race. And off goes Lewis Hamilton once again. Good clean pit stop by the looks of things. They go onto the harder compound tyre. Now they've managed to get 13 laps. They could definitely make this a two-stop race based on that. But some of the other teams, I think, are going to have to make 3 stops. and that of course won't be worked out until the very end of the race. So really interesting to see how that pans out. We're on board with Sebastian Vettel here. He's now in third place. He's chasing after Adrian Sutil, who has stayed out there on his medium compound tyres, hasn't made a pit stop yet, and Vettel is charging after him.
We're seeing that Rosberg is on team radio saying got a big understeer. The team asked him, do you want 0.3 or 0.6 on your front wing at the next stop? And he's gone, I'll have 0.6 please. That's a fairly hefty front wing adjustment that he's going for as an offset.
So through turn 11 and 12. Fastest real corners on the track, if you like, in many ways. That left-right flick. Now up towards turn 13. Sebastian Vettel remembers this corner. It's where his wheel broke on him when he was leading here a couple of years ago. But no such problems at the moment. But it's not all about Red Bull here today. Despite their outright pace in qualifying, they are definitely finding themselves in the middle of a race as he now tries to get up behind Sutil, try and use DRS, but he's not going to be close enough this time.
No, he went a little bit too deep into turn 15. That got him out of position for the last corner. As he crosses the line, 0.5 of a second behind, he'll hope to use the second DRS zone. As we see Rosberg, you'll see the front wing adjustment will blink and you miss it. Very fast pit stop indeed. Just around 22 seconds total time loss between leaving the circuit, taking on a fresh set of boots and rejoining, which looks like he'll come out just in front of the McLaren of Button. Is Button going to go round outside in the braking? No, slots in behind Rosberg, but will look to try and cut through if he can. That'll allow Webber a chance to maybe pass Button this lap.
Bit of a lock-up ahead of them. Let's see what happens here. Button not really able to get close enough to Nico Rosberg, and so the positions stay the same. And Hamilton, by the way, now is in seventh place. Still haven't seen Sutil come into the pits. So Adrian Sutil, making his return to Formula One, is leading a Grand Prix. He's never finished on the podium, Adrian Sutil. Best finish in Formula One in some 90 Grand Prix has been a fourth place finish, but he leads at the moment.
So you need to look after these tyres, but keep Jensen behind you.
So, yeah, that's what he's trying to do.
Push and defend.
Yeah, all at the same time.
Actually, Adrian Sutil's time isn't too bad out there on 14-lap old tyres, a 33.6 last lap, comparison to Vettel, who also on a 33.6. Just a replay of the action here. Rosberg gets on the curb, opens up the throttle, and then has as big a slide as you're going to see in a Grand Prix car. They really don't like drifting through the corners too much. The yaw angle affects the aerodynamics.
So Sutil continues to lead this race. He still hasn't come into the pits yet, and he's doing a fine job. Having been out of the sport for a year, Vettel isn't finding it easy, and look now how it's allowing the Ferraris to stack up. This is not what Sebastian Vettel wanted at all. He wanted a clean, quick pass, and Raikkonen's not far behind. We could get a whole chain of cars, and this is all helping Hamilton as well on what is probably going to be a different strategy.
Yeah, the Red Bull not performing as well on heavy tanks as we saw blistering pace in qualifying. Again, of course, they could be just driving a pace, driving a strategy to try and make sure that they're in the right place later in the Grand Prix. But this does make it exciting for us. A couple of Ferraris pushing them down. They look like they're all bound together with bungee straps.
It makes it very close indeed. And I wonder how much further Sutil is going to be able to go before coming into the pits. Our man down in the pits is Tom Clarkson. Tom, weather seems to be holding fairly well at the moment, but I guess that Adrian Sutil is going to have to be coming in for a pit stop soon.
Yes, you're right, Ben. It's pretty static at the minute. The wind has actually died down a little bit, but just while listening to you guys talking about the Mercedes, you've got to take your hat off to the engineers in that team, because during winter testing there were reports coming out that they were getting up to 20 degrees more rear tyre temperature than any other team, and they've clearly got that under control. So a great job from them, and let's wait for Sutil.
Yeah, he's still out there. He's still going around. You're not going to see him just yet in the pits. And this is amazing. He's on the medium compound tyre. We expect the medium compound tyre to do about, 18 laps? So I guess he's still got a couple more laps in hand before he has to make a stop. But we have seen some come in on 15 laps, for example. And Maldonado only did about 11 laps on a set of medium. So it is pretty good going at the moment for Sutil.
Well, going into the Grand Prix, the engineers were of the mind that the wear life on the medium would be around 18 laps. But what tends to happen when they make those predictions is as the track rubbers in, then you can extend the life of the tyre. So you have to say Sutil doing a great job, given that he's been out of the car for a year. You have to feel for their team, though. The race director for the cameras is spending more time focusing on the battle behind than giving Force India their moment in the sun.
We're on board with Fernando Alonso. He's in that little lineup. He's running in 4th place. Meanwhile, Lewis Hamilton, by the way, he's running in 6th place, so he's a little bit behind this group, but we think that he may well have a pit stop in hand. Rosberg is 7th. Button is currently 8th. Mark Webber is 9th. De Resta 10th. Then Grosjean is 11th, followed by Jean-Eric Vergne 12th. Perez, who's been into the pits and put some super soft tyres on.
Let me know if my pace is good.
Hey Lewis, you're doing a great job. Current pace is good enough. Current pace is good enough.
They know where they are, Mercedes. They know they're on a different strategy and they're happy with what Hamilton is doing at this point. So continuing our look down the list, Perez is 13th, then Gutierrez, the young Mexican making his debut, is 14th. Valtteri Bottas in the Williams is 15th, then Maldonado, Ricciardo, Jules Bianchi now dropped to 18th place in the Marussia with Charles Pic 19th, Max Chilton is in 20th, and then Guido van der Garde, and of course Nico Hulkenberg never made the start of the race at all. And poor Nico Hulkenberg, he's never made it to the end of the first lap without problems here in Australia, and now he hasn't even got to the beginning of the first lap. He seems to have some sort of jinx here.
Well, a pit stop total time is around 22, 23 seconds, depending on how good the driver is at getting the car presented to his team. Hamilton currently running 15 seconds behind race leader Sutil, who's doing a handy job of holding that pack back into Hamilton. So if he is indeed doing one less stop, as long as he can stay within that sort of 20-second window of whoever the race leader happens to be, presuming they are doing an extra stop, then it will play into the hands of Mercedes, Hamilton and Rosberg.
That's right. So Sutil doing everything asked for to be able to stay in front of these guys, and Vettel now having to check his mirrors with Massa and Alonso tucked in behind. How far is the back is Raikkonen? You can just see him in the background there. The Lotus is gradually catching similar sort of pace from him, just doing a 1:33.4 on that last lap. And so another lap completed on the medium compound tyre, the slightly harder compound tyre for Adrian Sutil. Now, Gary, I want to get your thoughts on this. You said it would be a good idea to start on the medium compound tyre. It's exactly what Sutil has done. It's working for him. But tell me what you think about Mercedes' tactics here.
Well, I think they were a bit later coming in, to be honest. You know, they were losing too much time to the bunch ahead. Yeah, I think they're trying to do a 2-stop race, thinking that everybody else is going to do a 3-stop. I don't think that will work out beneficial in the long term. I think they can look at doing it. They've got a good pace right now, but to go that far is going to be pretty tough.
They must be being helped a little bit by the fact that Vettel, Massa and Alonso aren't getting past Sutil, though. That's got to help them.
Yes, they are closing down the gap now. Obviously, there's a Red Bull back into the pits now. Mark Webber in for his second stop now. You know, that's not very many laps. He came in, I think it was lap 6 or 7. That's only 10 or 11 laps on the medium tyre. That doesn't bode very well at all.
So definitely tricky. So what are your predictions at the moment? Do you think that Vettel's still got the lead hand here?
Well, I think Sutil's doing a fantastic job because, you know, he's out there, the tyres are okay, he's doing good lap times. He's pulled away from Vettel, or Vettel's had to back off to allow his tyres to cool down a little bit because he was sliding around too much. So that's all Sutil wants. The car's quick and straight on its own right, so it doesn't have to be. The DRS is not that easy to pass a Force India.
Thank you very much, Gary. And Sutil, well, what a way to come back into Formula One, David.
It's actually a great story at the moment which is unfolding. He went to the Barcelona test.
We think almost all other cars are on 3 stops as well. Almost all other cars on the same strategy.
You know, that confirms what plan B is. They had told them earlier in the race they'd gone to plan B, so they obviously started out hoping to do 2. And but anyway, I just wanted to say on Sutil, he went to the Barcelona test very late in pre-season, and he said to his manager, well, this is my chance to either get my ride again in Formula 1 or it's all over, my career is over. And within 10 laps he was on the pace as the Lotus boys get themselves ready for another stop, and that then led Sutil to say, well, I'm now going to show the world just how good I am. So a year away, thinking about his career. Well, he's certainly come back fresh. Impressive performance.
It is impressive. And just to remind you, part of the reason that he was, well, the main reason he was away for a year, he was convicted of assault after an incident in a nightclub in China, and that effectively meant he wasn't able to drive last year, but He's come back from that. Some people said he wouldn't ever be back in Formula One, but he is back, and what a return it is for Soutil, who, as I mentioned earlier, has never had a podium finish. But Force India, they're getting used to leading races. Hulkenberg led in Brazil at the end of last season, so 2 consecutive races now that we've had Force India up front, and it's up to the others to find a way.
So Soutil is still holding the leaders up. He's doing a good job.
It is helping Mercedes, all this, because the leaders, the likes of Vettel, Massa and Alonso, they simply can't run at the pace they want. Look at Alonso. You get the feeling he's beginning to get a bit frustrated. He's coming in fact. Right, that's what that was all about. So this is a bit of strategy, I would think, to try and drop him out of the line and try and get him doing something else and perhaps free him up for the later stages of this race.
Well, it's going to drop him out, I would say, behind Rosberg, just looking at the gaps as they were last running. And he'll need to hope that he, presuming he's running at a slightly faster pace, that he doesn't lose time behind Rosberg. We'll watch that gap. Well, there indeed.
Interesting. Sorry, David.
Yeah, I was just saying the Mercedes there going through.
Clean exit out of the pits for Alonso. Interestingly, Grosjean only did 13 laps on his set of medium, the harder compound tyre, and we were expecting a bit more. Big slide there from Vettel. I wonder if surely his rears aren't going to be going off just yet, are they? But maybe. We don't really know. None of the teams quite know what to expect on this fairly green track surface. In other words, not much rubber down. Perhaps some of these cars really are getting through the tyres more quickly than expected.
Well, you can see the lap time improvement from Mark Webber's come in for his second stop. He's gone purple, fastest of all, at 31.5, which is 2 seconds faster than our current leader.
Pits this lap, pit confirm, pits this lap, pit confirm.
Right, so we know Soutil's coming in, but he's done 20 laps on a heavy fuel load from the start of this race. That Force India has looked after its tyres, and he has looked after the tyres superbly well. In comes race leader,
Vettel,
and he's followed by Vettel. My goodness, so not a very long stint for Sebastian Vettel.
He's responding to the fact Mark Webber has just gone massively quicker on a new set of medium tyres.
He's responding to Alonso as well, I think.
Yeah.
That's the key, because Alonso, who was fighting with him, has just set the fastest middle sector of anybody. That's what they're doing. They're responding to Ferrari pace as well. So the Force India is back on its way. It's still in front of the Red Bull, and Sebastian Vettel gets out of the pit lane.
Alonso's through in front of him.
There he is.
Alonso has gone through.
Ferrari have played that beautifully, and Alonso just finding his way past the Force India of Soutil as they rejoin, but that has worked brilliantly well for Ferrari, getting him in at the right time. Now, can he look after the tyres? The Ferrari seems to be pretty good on its tyres, but don't forget Hamilton and Rosberg. Hamilton is now up to 3rd place, by the way. He is some 12.5 seconds off the leader, who is now Felipe Massa. So we're waiting to see whether Massa comes in for his second stop on this next lap. Listen in.
Well, either we go for it now and you see what you can do. Now you've got a free track in front of you. Let's see what you can do.
As ever, it's always great listening in to Rob Smedley and Felipe Massa on the radio, and he's been told just get on with it. Let's see what lap times you can do.
Yeah, well, let's watch those sectors. I'm not sure it's going to be good enough. He's matching Alonso in the first sector. He's 4/10 down in the middle sector already, so we're going to presume Alonso knows fresher tyres.
Let's see what the lap time is. 33.1. It's not really going to be enough, is it? I think
it's going to be in next lap, I suspect.
This will work nicely for Ferrari if they wanted Alonso to move ahead, because it'll certainly help Fernando move ahead of Massa, I would think, on this one. Hamilton comes through, still a player in this race. The Caterham of Guido van der Garde is down in 20th. Rosberg is in 4th. There is Alonso then. So Alonso now ahead of Vettel, as you can see, split still by Adrian Soutil. And Vettel cannot find a way past his fellow German. He's been stuck behind him for many, many laps, and it's getting ever more crucial that he finds a way past that car. He's got to run, and he's going for it down the inside into turn 3, and he's done that well, and he needed to do it.
Well, that was a brave move. You saw him lock up at the last phase of the braking there, but he launched it down the inside, used the advantage of speed that comes from the DRS being wide open, and now he's got to go and chase down Alonso.
Oh, this is memories of last year, isn't it? These two fighting for the World Championship, but we must not forget Hamilton nor Raikkonen. Raikkonen's still in this as well. He's only done the one stop. Kimi Raikkonen is 1.4 seconds behind Felipe Massa and still lapping a little faster than Felipe Massa. On the split times, there's not much to choose between them. There's still several cars, several drivers in the hunt here. Let's just take another look at this. Oh, this is Webber, actually. This is Webber getting past Perez, isn't it?
Yeah, fairly straightforward. Down in turn 13.
In comes Massa. No surprise there. But I also think that you will see Massa is behind Alonso. Now, where will he be versus Vettel? The danger is they may well have ended up dropping him behind Vettel.
I think he will. The gap from Vettel last time round. Vettel's done a fastest first sector, unsurprising. Here he is. Let's watch the battle. There's Massa on the left. Vettel's going to have a run on him as they get down into turn 1.
So Ferrari have now got Alonso leading that little group of cars. Ooh, big slide there on the new tyres from Massa.
Cue frustrated driver. You'll be thinking, how did I manage to go from being in front of my teammate to being behind him? And well, he was behind Vettel, of course, but he's lost out in that round of pit stops.
Yeah, that's right. And he's also got Sutil ahead of him, so he's got to worry about that, because Sutil, as we've seen, has been driving so well this afternoon in the Force India. So this is the group that's fighting. They're running fourth now. This is the fight for fourth. Meanwhile, Kimi Raikkonen now leads the Australian Grand Prix. So Kimi Raikkonen in the Lotus, who is going deeper on his second set of tyres than those around him. So that's very interesting. Again, we've got slightly different strategies. Lots of different strategies going on here, really. You've got the Raikkonen strategy going deep on the second set of tyres. You've got Hamilton and Rosberg trying to do it on just the 2 stops. Now, will Raikkonen try and do it on 2 stops, but in a slightly different way? We'll wait and see on that one. But Alonso is closing up. Let's just watch, just trying to watch as he comes through there. There is Raikkonen then. So he is your race leader. Big gap back to Lewis Hamilton. But there is Hamilton out of the final turn now. The gap was 10.5 seconds. Let's just see what it is this time as they come through. It's up to 11 seconds, so he loses another half second there. But they're running to a pace. Rosberg comes through in third. Then we've got, third place. Then Alonso in fourth. He's chased by Vettel, and Vettel's getting much closer.
He's in the DRS zone. He's used it down into turn 1. Is it going to be enough as they run down into turn 3? No, not enough on this occasion.
And look at Sutil. Sutil behind them is staying on the pace and has just set the fastest lap of the race. So a possible shower, rain expected. It's going to be interesting. It's saying 17:50 local time. That is 8 minutes from where we are now. So that could change the complexion of this race once again, and we're not quite at half distance yet. Intermediate tyres, wet tyres, perhaps they will be brought into play. Right now it's still Kimi Raikkonen who leads this race. We're watching the battle for fourth place, and Adrian Sutil, and off, that is Maldonado in the Williams. Past to Maldonado, who was having a bit of a tough afternoon anyway, and he has gone off, and the Williams crew looked as though they were getting ready for him.
Yeah, is that down at turn 1? Recognised that angle.
He's certainly well beached, because the rear wheels are still spinning and he can't get out of there.
Yeah, it's turn 1. He's launched it a long way into the gravel from very early in the braking zone, I would suggest. So just looking at the angle at which he's gone into the gravel.
Can you keep going faster or not? Okay, Pastor, just switch off the car. Switch off the car if you can't go.
Now, it's caused a yellow flag in that area, so they have disabled the DRS. But it's up to the drivers to realise that, because the automatic system's not working where DRS won't operate. Let's just see here, David, what happened.
Put a wheel on the grass on the way in, so that car, difficult and tricky to drive, but as he braked, he just drifted slightly over the white line, touched the grass, and then booked his one-way ticket to the gravel. Well, to the beach, but unfortunately, it's not a beach you want to lie on, is it?
No, Alonso did something similar to that in qualifying last year, didn't he? And ended up in the gravel trap. But yeah, Maldonado now out of the race. He's only the second, well, I say retirement. The first one never even made the start. That was Hulkenberg. So in a way, he's the first actual retirement from this race. The other Williams of Bottas is running 18th. Quickly run you through the order at this stage. We've got Raikkonen leading, Hamilton second, Rosberg third, Alonso fourth, then Vettel, Sutil, Felipe Massa in 7th place, Di Resta 8th, Webber is in 9th position. Then you've got Gutierrez running well in the Sauber, he's in 10th. Ricardo in the Toro Rosso 11th. Where's Jenson Button in all this? Well, he's all the way down in 12th place. Romain Grosjean's only 13th. Then you've got Jean-Eric Verne 14th. Jules Bianchi going well, still in 15th in the Marussia. And then Perez, Bottas and Charles Pic. Then we've got Van der Garde and Chilton still running. Yellow flags in that zone at turn 1 as Raikkonen continuing to open up a bit more of a lead over Lewis Hamilton. 11.3 seconds the gap. Now up to 12. He gained 7/10 of a second that time on Lewis Hamilton. But Nico Rosberg is beginning to come under pressure now from that next group. So Alonso catching Nico Rosberg. Down towards turn 3 they come then. And there is Vettel still chasing after the Ferrari, but the Ferrari's got the DRS. He's within range now. Oh, and in fact pulling off.
No problem.
Yeah, so that's Rosberg pulling off to the side of the track, and well, a reliability issue I would guess for Nico Rosberg, and that is a great shame for Mercedes. Remember, they had a lot of reliability issues last year, for Michael Schumacher in particular, but it looks like he's the first mechanical non-finish of the year.
Well, that looks like it was something pretty fundamental, and he looked okay as he ran into the braking zone at turn 3, and then he's just bailed out, feeling maybe a loss of drive. They had a gearbox issue in free practice. We'll find out in time, of course. Disappointment for Mercedes.
Yeah, that's not the start they wanted. And Nico Rosberg clams out. Last year, nearly all the problems were for Michael rather than for Nico. He had a very good finishing record generally throughout the season, but sadly, first race and it's gone wrong for them. By the way, the DRS is enabled. We did see a bit of use of that. Vettel locking up. That's not something you see too often. Alonso trying to make the break. Behind them, you've still got Adrian Sutil and Felipe Massa. Now, Massa's got a pretty good run going here, and he's in DRS zone, looking as though he might have a little run down towards the first corner. Let's see, not close enough there, but on the next DRS phase, out of turn 2, he might have another chance.
Well, 17:46 local time. What was it you said? The rain was expected. 17:50. Raikkonen obviously trying to eke it out into a 2-stop. The advantage of that, of course, is that if the rain does come, he's held that advantage through this phase of being able to make the tyres last. It gives him flexibility, and currently with a 13-second lead over Hamilton.
Yeah, if he can go deep enough into this race to make it a 2-stop, he's getting on target, you know, to do that. If he can get just a few...
There may be some light drops of rain. We don't expect a lot. There may be light drops of rain. If it comes, it will be in turn 13 and 14 first.
So they may be able to stay out on slick tyres if it's only a few drops of rain. New race engineer for Mark Webber this year, different voice on the radio to Mark. It's Simon Rennie, whose voice you'll remember from last year because he was on the radio to Kimi Raikkonen, with much entertainment value, of course, at Abu Dhabi.
Different response, I'm sure he'll get from Mark Webber. But just picking up on what you said about Raikkonen, a 2-stop strategy won this Grand Prix last year. The second of those stops was in lap 36. So getting into that window as Maldonado walks back with entourage. It's Sophie, who works in the communications department, on his right. Obviously trying to get their story straight before coming to meet the world's press.
Disappointing start for Maldonado. Got married over the off-season break, but sadly the new season has not started particularly well.
Massa's in the zone. He's going to get a run into the rain, and he backs out of it as he realises it's damp, running into the braking zone in turn 3. But had that not been some spits of rain, you would have seen him launch it round the outside of Sutil.
Yes, I'm sure he would have done, but probably caution a sensible idea. When you start seeing those drops on your visor, you never quite know what you're going into, and Massa was sensible there. But Kimi Raikkonen definitely looking as though he's trying to make this a 2-stop race, and that would certainly hurt Mercedes.
Okay, Kimi, we're expecting a very light shower, a short light shower. If we can stay out, it'll be good. But you just let us know.
So Kimi's car moving around a bit there, certainly at the top end of the circuit. Let's watch it closely. How much further can he carry these tyres? As I said, the Lotus is looking good on looking after its tyres, but the way the rain max are going on in the grandstand, it does indicate we might be in for a little bit more than just a light shower here.
Well, he's got the window of that buffer, that gap to the car behind to play with. So in many ways he doesn't need to blink first, but you can just be down to the racing gods if you end up being at the right place in the track when the rain really comes, that enables you to dive into the pits. If you pass the pit lane entry and then run into the rain, of course you've got a whole lap of misery on those slick tyres. So, well, let's wait and see what the weather gods do bring us. Meanwhile, Massa trying again to get into that DRS second zone.
Just looking on board Alonso, this was the area where we saw the rain on the visor last time around, but looking at the lap times, they haven't really dropped off very much.
No, and if you just look at the camera there, well, some spits of rain on the static camera, but the onboard camera didn't seem to be getting any worse.
So now it's time to push.
This is as far as I can go at the moment.
That's all we've got at the moment.
Yeah.
Very clear there from Lewis Hamilton. The gap's been sort of fluttering around that 13-second window relative to Kimi Räikkönen.
But I wonder, Alonso is just 1.9 seconds behind Hamilton now, and you can see them catching him up. Now, of course, each of them will still have another pit stop to go, even though Hamilton's trying to get through on 2 stops, and we think 3 for Ferrari, but Alonso wants to try and get ahead of that Mercedes as quickly as possible.
Yeah, just thinking about what Hamilton said there, his tyres are 4 laps younger than that of Räikkönen, and 4 laps, well, it's 20 kilometres or so around this track, so it's significant that he feels that that's everything he can give at this stage. So further evidence that the Lotus and Räikkönen are really delivering at the moment.
Yes, indeed. Räikkönen, though, just a slower lap there from Räikkönen, 1:35.1. Whether that was getting caught by rain or whether his tyres are really going off now, keep an eye on that. As looking in his mirrors, Lewis Hamilton sees Fernando Alonso behind him in the DRS zone. Alonso goes to the outside. That's always a bit of a brave thing to try and attempt, and Hamilton just controls the middle ground, is completely unflustered by whichever direction Alonso goes in. It's not an easy racetrack on which to overtake. We see it can happen.
Alonso on the 3 stop.
Yes, he is, Lewis. Yes, he is. But we still want to keep him behind.
That's not going to happen. He's going to get my DRS now.
I love the way they just carry on a conversation as they're racing at 190 miles an hour, but Alonso is getting much closer now. They're not in a DRS zone here. And it's
Difficult as well around the back of the lake, but he's looking to the outside.
Wow, he's trying to go around the outside, can't do that, surely.
Rosberg has picked up some debris on his tyres now, so he's going to be vulnerable in the acceleration out, and Alonso will get the pass done as they run down. Now he's been forced to the outside, so late braking.
Alonso trying to go around Hamilton. Hamilton locks it up and just stays in front. Well, he's always the last of the late breakers, and he will not give up his place easily, but finally he has to. Hamilton is passed by Alonso for second place, and Vettel now is bearing down on the British driver. Oh, he's in, surely. Yeah, he's in. Hamilton comes into the pits now. He cannot go any further on that set of tyres. He's had to give up. And interestingly, Rosberg out of this race. So we've now just got the one Mercedes to keep an eye on. Is it going to be good enough for him to get on the podium? I think a podium finish is still possible, but of course the other guys are all so close together. Good stop by Mercedes.
It was indeed, but that battling cost Alonso a little bit of lap time, and it's allowed the gap between Räikkönen and Alonso to be pushed out to 16 seconds. Vettel, of course, right on the gearbox of the Ferrari. Sutil, of course, is still staying with them.
Yeah, just saw Di Resta go through the shot as we look at the replay here of the battle between Alonso and Hamilton. And finally, Alonso around the outside, but then Hamilton didn't want to give up.
Yeah, but crucially, Alonso looked in his mirrors, saw the car locked up, and just left the space, playing the long game. Obviously racy stuff here, but he knows he has to make the pass. Look at this, 2 great champions going wheel to wheel. Alonso goes, right, that's how late I'm going to brake. Looks, sees the Mercedes coming back down the inside. He'll release it. If he had any KERS left, he would have, of course, used a little boost of KERS to strategically slip past.
Now there is Vettel, still Sutil staying with these guys. I mean, Adrian Sutil in the Force India, he's still in front of Felipe Massa in the Ferrari, And this is a wonderful drive by Soutal and a wonderful evidence of the work that Force India have done over the winter. Getting out of the way is Charles Pic in the Caterham. He's running the first of the younger teams. Charles Pic has got in front of Bianchi. He's got in front of his teammate Van der Gaard, and now trying to get out of the way of the Toro Rosso. Well, the fuel is still burning off, of course, so the cars are getting faster and faster. Perhaps he's gone for a relatively recent pit stop because he's got a fresh set of tyres, and therefore he's been able to go quickly. But Alonso, he may well be, well, keep an eye on it actually, he may well have put the, he has put the super softs on, right, and we're late in the race. Interestingly, just bear in mind that Adrian Soutal still has his super softs that he has to run. You have to run both compounds of tyre. The Soutal hasn't run his yet, so he's got those to look forward to later in the race.
Yeah, and the car will have burned off most of his weight by the time he eventually makes that stop, so he seems to be driving well within himself at this stage. It'll be interesting to see just what the life of the super softs will be late in the race when the fuel's burned off, and it's predicted that they would give you about 14 laps of actual wear life, so he wants to be able to try and push that out a bit further before he considers that stop.
Rosberg has made it back to the hospitality area in the paddock. I hope we get to hear from him soon as to the reason for that car stopping, but whatever, it's a disappointing way to start the year. There was a noisy exhaust that just went past us.
That was Daniel Ricciardo in the Toro Rosso. Sounds like he's got a cracked exhaust.
And Kimi Raikkonen coming in. Right, so Raikkonen in from the lead of this race. He built up a 15-second lead. Now he's got to lap 33, onto lap 34. He is definitely making this a two-stop race. Eric Boulier is very happy about that. Karen Pilbeam, who has joined Lotus this year, having switched across from Red Bull, having a good look at that pit stop as well. And that is good news for Lotus. They're looking very, very strong here for Kimi Raikkonen. Can he hold on? Meanwhile, his teammate down in 9th place currently. So Alonso takes the lead of this race and has just set a new fastest lap, as you can see, has a 2.6.
The descriptions that Paul Hembry was giving me to explain how the tyres actually develop their grip, you know, through chemical adhesion is one of the ways that it does develop it. And the other way is a wonderful word called socketing.
Sorry, I wasn't saying socketing, I was saying and Alonso there, because
confused the listeners at home there.
Indeed.
But Ben's trigger word is socketing,
But
Alonso.
he was on the grass there, kicking up the dust, and it shows you how hard he's still trying. I mean, they're flat out at this sort of two-thirds distance in the race. Alonso staying in front of Vettel, and if you think of the race in terms of championship terms and what we can look forward to this year, we can look forward to a lot, because the Ferrari is looking after its tyres well. The Red Bull might have the ultimate pace in qualifying, that's certainly the way it seemed earlier today, but right now Vettel cannot stay with the Ferrari. He was a second slower on the last lap, and this lap as well. Alonso's quicker in both sectors so far.
Yeah, Alonso, clearly committed to having to do another stop, is just exploiting some clean air, trying to take everything he can out of those tyres. And how far can he go before making that crucial stop?
Meanwhile, Raikkonen is only 13 seconds behind Alonso, which is fine, because he knows Alonso's got to make another stop, and there's no way that Alonso can come into the pits, have the new tyres and get out in that time. It's Massa who is first in for Ferrari though, so he was chasing Adrian Soutal, remember. So Force India may need to react, although they're on a different strategy, so they're going to go deeper before they put their super soft tyres, so they probably won't react to the Ferrari at this point. Away goes Massa, no problems for him at all, and he continues. Lap 37 now, out of 58, and things are looking good for Kimi Raikkonen at this stage of the race. No doubt about it, the Lotus team are looking particularly strong here, riding on board with Daniel Ricciardo, as Jean-Eric Verne coming around out of the last corner. Jean-Eric Verne's running in 10th place, he's behind Grosjean. And there is Verne, then Grosjean, and Ricciardo right behind. And Ricciardo, of course, trying to do whatever he can to beat his teammate. There's great rivalry there.
Soutal managed 21 laps on that first set of medium tyres when the car was heavy with fuel. Currently on lap 16 on this particular stint. So he's looking very good for being able to carry this tyre to very late in the race, where he can pop on the super soft and, race whoever's around him at that time, but he's fighting here for a potential podium.
Yeah, would be his first ever podium if he could do it, Adrian Sutil. Alonso, though, back out, still leading this race. He's seen his teammate in comes Vettel. Right, so third and presumably final stop for Sebastian Vettel. It'll be on to another set of the harder compound, the medium compound tyres, and he will go to the end of the race on this. Well, he'll hope to. There's still 20 laps to go, and the Red Bull has certainly been getting through its tyres quicker than some of the other teams, so he's got to make those last now, all the way to the end of this race. And I'm not sure.
That's Hamilton just going through.
Now that's crucial, because they've done the same number of stops, and Hamilton is now ahead of Sebastian Vettel.
Well, Hamilton's on 2 stops.
Yeah, but he won't be coming in again. Sorry, that's what I mean. He won't be coming in any more. So that is a genuine race now between Hamilton and Vettel. But Vettel, of course, has got fresher tyres than Hamilton has. And behind them is Massa.
I think also, if we believe what Hamilton was saying to his engineers, he's doubting whether he can make it to the end on these tyres. So let's just keep an open mind on whether Mercedes have to pit again.
Yeah, definitely. Into the pits comes Jenson Button. Button trying to get into the points for McLaren. That's really all he can hope for here today. Grosjean has rejoined behind him. They're battling just around that bottom of the top 10. So comes back out. He's in 12th position as he rejoins the fray. Button on 999 World Championship points in his career. He only needs one more for 1,000, but it's actually going to be quite difficult to achieve that here today. So Vettel is still pushing hard now that he's come out on these new tyres, and it is a Grand Prix all about how you're using your tyres. Well, Pirelli's motorsport director is Paul Hembry, and he's talking to Tom Clarkson.
That's right, Ben. He's with me now. Paul, 20 laps to go. It's a fascinating race so far. How do you see it playing out from here?
Well, it was key really that Kimi got his 25 laps in on that set of mediums. He's gone back on the mediums again, which means he's looking at a 2-stop race, and he was also at the end of that stint very, very quick. And looking at the tyres that have come off the car, he was in a good position. So he's looking good. And Sutil, of course, has taken a different strategy compared to a lot of the other teams in the Q2 grouping, and it looks like it's paying dividends as well.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
So Mark Webber into the pits now, and on his way once again. So he's also now got to get to the end of the race, in theory, on that set of tyres, but should be possible. Rejoins behind Di Resta there. Paul Di Resta now in 8th position. Mark Webber back out in 9th position. And Di Resta having a good solid race, but certainly the strategy working for his teammate Sutil very effectively. And Di Resta couldn't use that strategy, remember, because he'd actually done a better job in qualifying, ironically. It's funny how this system works, isn't it? Because you don't have choice of tyre if you're in the top 10. You do if you're outside the top 10, and it's definitely favoured Sutil here today.
Yeah, and I hope that doesn't become a feature of later in the year. If there is such an issue with the tyres and their durability, you might see some of the teams in the mid-grid effectively not trying to get into the top 10, so they can make sure they can start on a free choice of tyres. And we saw a few occasions last year where people were well outside the top 10 on a one-stop strategy, were able to come through and score good points. Anyway, Alonso back out onto the track. He's going to be just behind the Marussia as Sebastian Vettel
on Hamilton
for the pass.
Yeah, that's Sebastian Vettel getting past Hamilton, and he does so. Nothing that Hamilton could do. You could see his cars moving around, and I think that he's going to fall victim to Felipe Massa fairly soon here as well. And Hamilton said on the radio he couldn't go any quicker, and he's dropping away. So that potential podium finish that we thought might be on the cards is looking less likely.
Well, if I came from a long way back, had the DRS, of course, and down the inside, fairly straightforward pass in the end. But can Hamilton, will we expect to see him in again for another set of tyres? And he's got the Ferrari of Massa all over the back of him now. He's having to go defensive already, so Hamilton's struggling.
He is, and it should be fairly straightforward for...
It is more light rain falling, light rain in last sector.
Here comes Felipe Massa. He's trying to go around the outside, but that's not going to be very easy on Lewis Hamilton, who's going to play the defensive game, but he might have a decent run up towards turn 13. This is where Alonso went on the attack of Lewis Hamilton, of course. Can he go around the... Yeah, in fact, Hamilton doesn't even bother to fight it as hard this time. So Massa gets past Hamilton. So Gary, the ploy by Mercedes actually really hasn't worked for them, has it?
It hasn't really worked, and also that lock-up that Lewis had, you know, obviously flat-spotted the tyre. He probably had it picked 4 or 5 laps earlier than he'd like to have done, but in reality, the performance was dropping away anyway at that point in time, so I think we needed to bite the bullet earlier and go for the 3-stop.
We're just taking a look at that. It was a fairly straightforward pass. Tell me about the Lotus strategy. That seems to be working effectively.
Yeah, fantastically, and again, you know, the tyre durability is excellent. He's what now, 7.1 seconds ahead of Fernando Alonso. I wouldn't give up on Fernando yet. He's fighting a big battle here, but I think Raikkonen, if he can keep it clean and tidy and not make any mistakes, I think he might have this one.
But what about Süttel? He's got the super soft still to come. You said that was a great strategy before we went into this race, and it really is working for him.
Yeah, I mean, what they're fighting for here is a top 5 or 6 position, to be honest. And it's not only Adrian Süttel. I mean, De Resta started on the super soft tyre. He's in the 8th position. So for Force India, it's a great job. Yeah,
it is. No, you're absolutely right. Thank you very much, Gary. Meanwhile, across the line, there goes Jenson Button, who's now 11th, 12th place for Romain Grosjean. But it's Mark Webber in 9th, who's just set the fastest lap of the race.
Well, fresh set of tyres, and Süttel out front. If he has a clean pit stop when he eventually goes for it, that'll drop him 22 seconds or so. That'll put him out behind Hamilton, who's currently 18 seconds behind him. Toro Rosso being retired. Daniel Ricciardo, well, one half of the Australian driving force, out of their home Grand Prix. And just to finish on Süttel, if Hamilton does have to stop again, then that's going to give Süttel the chance to finish in 6th place.
Into the first turn, Alonso. The fastest lap by Alonso there.
Okay, Lewis, let's pick up the pace. Let's convert to the plan B.
Well, that sounds like he may be making another pit stop, doesn't it?
Yeah, indeed. Use what's left of these tyres. And although plan B may be somebody's favourite group or band, I believe it's the name of a singer, it's not really a good thing in motor racing. Plan A is always the shiny one.
Now you've got De Resta versus Mark Webber here. We know the Force India's been strong in the hands of Süttel, but Webber's got a great run going. Not close enough to attack into turn 1.
Buzzing the limiter. That you just heard him buzzing the limiter, but he's closer this time. But let's listen if he hits the limiter again with the DRS open. Force India has got enough straight line speed. He may not be quite as quick as Mark on these fresh tyres in the turns, but he's certainly got enough straight line. So crucial for Mark to try and jump him somewhere around the remainder of this lap before he's used up all that sort of freshness from the tyres.
Yeah, let's see whether there is any opportunity here for Webber. The home Grand Prix for Mark Webber.
Now's his chance.
Always tough. Let's see, this is a difficult place.
And he goes for it.
Round the outside, Mark Webber gets past the Force India of Paul Di Resta, and that puts him up into 8th position now. So good effort that by Mark Webber. Brave place to overtake, but he had such superior speed over the Force India that he made it look relatively easy. Now in comes Hamilton. So from trying to make this a 2-stop race, Mercedes have failed. They've had to go to plan B, and he's come in for his 3rd pit stop now. So sadly, the strategy didn't quite work, and they do seem to still be using the tyres a little harder than some of the other teams out there. We saw that last year, and they've still got a bit of work to be done, but still encouraging in some areas.
Well, it is, and that's going to drop him down quite a bit. That releases Force India into making a fairly straightforward, safe decision on their final stop, because they have enough gap behind that battle that Hamilton and Süttel are working with to Jean-Eric Verne, who's currently running in 7th place, but he's 42 seconds behind the race leader, so a good 20 seconds to play with before the Force India makes its stop without affecting its overall finishing position.
On board with Sebastian Vettel here, who's now 4.9 seconds behind Alonso, who's lighting up the timing screens once again, and Kimi Raikkonen going past Adrian Süttel. That is for the lead of the race, and so Kimi Raikkonen retakes the lead. We knew he was looking comfortable, but he's now actually in the lead because Süttel still has to make another pit stop. Remember, he hasn't run the super soft tyres, and he has to do so at some point, but he's still doing the best he can to get a decent finish here. Now, let's just take another look at how this happened, David.
Well, that's out of the high-speed chicane, turn 11 and 12. And as Süttel goes defensive, Raikkonen reads it well, cuts to the inside, possibly a bit of curves as well, just to nip him through the inside. He's looking a lot sharper, Raikkonen. If you think back a year, And fantastic victory at the end of last season. Great third place in the Drivers' Championship. But he's really come out of the blocks. He's looked racier right from the first practice session, which is unsurprising, really, when you consider he was away for a couple of years and rallying.
Tell you what, though, as Gary said, he's got to watch Alonso, because Alonso is going so quickly at the moment, and the gap between Raikkonen and Alonso, only 4.5 seconds last time around. Alonso on fresher tyres, he's gone for the 3-stop strategy. Alonso still is a threat to win this race. Could he take a victory for Ferrari to start the season? Well, that would be a story. Webber there, getting past Jean-Eric Vergne, and that is for that is for 7th position. So 7th place gained by Webber. He's on a climb, and Hamilton would be his next target there. But Hamilton, of course, has just been in for a new set of tyres, so he should have good pace for the remainder of this race. Alonso is the one to watch. He's got faster than anybody in the first and second sectors of this race, and he's desperately trying to close the gap to Kimi Raikkonen, who now leads. Between them is still Adrian Sutil, but Sutil has one pit stop to make.
Yeah, one incredible battle coming up, I think, between Alonso and Raikkonen. Well, back there with Webber. Well, that was a pretty brave move around the outside of Hamilton. And
yeah, that's right. And Jean-Eric Vergne's still doing a good job, isn't he, in the Toro Rosso, up there in 7th place. Who'd have thought that? With the Toro Rosso's performance last year, he had several 8th place finishes to Jean-Eric Vergne, but this would certainly be his best if he can hang on to that result. But let's not count too much, because remember, at the end of last year's race, we saw several incidents on the last lap, including Pastor Maldonado, who spun when he was chasing down Alonso. It's Alonso who's on the chase now, and he's trying to close the gap. He's behind Sutil. Just quickly, though, let's hear from a Mercedes driver who dropped out. That was Nico Rosberg. He's now talking to Lee.
See how it goes.
Nico, what was the problem? What was the first that you actually knew of it?
Several cuts. There was some cuts, and then just switched off, so it was an electronic problem.
Up until that point, though, were you happy with how the car is running?
It felt okay, and everybody was very positive in my ear, so I thought, okay, this is going great, but apparently not so great.
Well, that was Nico Rosberg, but David, surely it's not going to take Alonso long here to get past the Force India.
No, coming on to start finish, they'll get the DRS activation. There you go, pops open, letterboxes wide open, reduce the drag, increase the top speed by 10 or so kilometers an hour, but actually not quite long enough. We saw it with Paul di Resta when he was battling with Mark Webber. It took him a few places to find his slot, but he goes early this time. Yeah, he'll go cleanly around the outside into turn 3. So the gap as he crossed the line, he was just under 5 seconds behind Raikkonen. And we'll see how much that may have cost him in this first sector, battling with Sutil. Let's just look at it. A 30.1 for first sector for Raikkonen, 30.5 for Alonso. So it's only dropped him half a second. And he will work his way now. He's got plenty of laps to try and get onto the back of that Lotus.
So Alonso takes 2nd place, and now chasing down the race leader. Reaction from the Ferrari pit. They have a car that they can really work with from the beginning of the year, and this World Championship looks to be as close as we hoped it would be. We were a bit worried after Friday practice and then qualifying that Red Bull seemed to have the edge by a big margin. We want them to be up there, of course, but we like it to be competitive across the board. And today's race does seem to be showing that it is going to be competitive across the board, because Alonso, the Ferrari, is fast. Raikkonen and the Lotus looking after its tyres incredibly well. And we've got other teams like Force India up there. This is the gap now then from Raikkonen, who's just gone across the line, back to Alonso with a couple of back markers between them. Max Chilton making his debuts in the middle of that in the red and black Marussia, and Max Chilton meanwhile trying to get past the Caterham. They must be careful here. They must let Alonso through without hindering him, and I think Alonso was going to get past there. Sutil in and onto his super soft tyres now.
Well, great work from the Force India team. Good job, and soon maybe to be classed as a great job from Sutil in the first Grand Prix back for a year. Now Alonso working with about 19 miles less use on tyres. He's got 6 laps fresher tyres than Raikkonen, but that Lotus seems to be being able to use his tyres well. First sector, Alonso's dropped another 6 tenths as he's making his way through the traffic in front of him. Raikkonen with his best lap of the race last time around, so he's responding as we get into the closing stages of this Grand Prix. He can sniff the victory.
Yeah, this is great stuff. The 2007 world champion Kimi Raikkonen up against the 2005 and 2006 world champion Fernando Alonso. Raikkonen, of course, won his title when he was driving for Ferrari. Alonso so desperately wants a title with Ferrari, what would be his third, but he wants that title with the great Italian team. And right now, there's not much to choose, although Raikkonen, as you say, responded. Raikkonen quicker on that middle sector, and Vettel isn't too far behind them. He's 5 seconds behind Alonso.
We're getting a replay of Sebastian. This is a lock-up down into turn 3. Well, gets away with it, but just looking back on when Raikkonen did his first stop, he managed to do 20, well, not his first stop, but he managed to do 24 laps on the first set of mediums, and he was still quick at the end of that run. So the Lotus, very consistent on its tyres, and Alonso, well, dropped 0.8 of a second to Raikkonen that last lap round. The gap's now out to 7.7 seconds.
Yeah,
Raikkonen has it. Raikkonen has the speed.
He has the speed, but does he have the reliability? Don't forget, they had gearbox problems.
Dietro di noi Vettel 5 secondi.
So the gap to Vettel, they're giving him 5-second gap to Sebastian Vettel, so he is okay in second. But I was just going to say there, David, in Barcelona testing, Lotus, and in fact in Jerez, across the board, they did less mileage than most of the other teams. They had some gearbox problems, so you know, you've got to hold your breath a little bit for Lotus. They might get some recurrence of that.
That's why all the engineers on the pit wall, mechanics in the garage, the people back at base and the fans of that particular team do exactly that. The nervous energy will be pumping through their veins. Grand Prix racing pushes the cars and drivers to the limit, but Raikkonen, he was very comfortable out front in his first victory back in Abu Dhabi last year. He's a true pro, so I suspect that he'll be able to nurse any issues that he may have with that car. It's certainly not affecting lap time. He's still a couple of tenths quicker last time round than Alonso, who's managed to pick up the pace and go 8 tenths faster than Vettel, who's in third, who's only got a 2.6 second gap to Massa. So Massa keeping Vettel honest.
And let's quickly update you. Where is Sutil now? He's made his pit stop for the Supersoft tyre. Well, I can tell you he's 5th. He's ahead of Hamilton, ahead of Webber as well. So Adrian Sutil, Gary said that their aim really would be to finish top 5, and you just saw him go through the shot there. He is ahead of Hamilton, but Hamilton, of course, on a good set of tyres.
He's on a fresh set. He's got to close that gap down. You can see him in front. I suspect that he will have the opportunity to try and work Sutil, who's on the different tyre, of course, and that super soft tyre. How effective can he be at making that work for him? But currently Hamilton matched him in the first sector. 6th place would still be a good result for Force India, running the Mercedes power, of course, currently running the best Mercedes powered car out there, beating the Works team.
There is rain on the radar, very light rain.
Interesting that. And Gilles Bianchi, by the way, is now ahead of Charles Pic in the battle between Marussia and Caterham. Marussia have got one car ahead, Bianchi ahead of Pic, then Van der Garde is in the second Caterham, then you've got Max Chilton. But Chilton was, as you saw a moment ago, dicing with Van der Garde, so there's a great tussle going on there. And interestingly, Bianchi is only 15 seconds behind the Williams of Valtteri Bottas. So there really has been an improvement from that Marussia team, and Gilles Bianchi as well is proving to be quite a star. He was very much considered for that Force India drive that Adrian Sutil has now got. I'm sure that Sutil's performance here today will make the team feel fully justified, David, in having selected Sutil, but the other choice that they might have gone for, Gilles Bianchi, is also proving himself.
He is indeed. And just looking further up the order, you've got Gutierrez pushing Perez, so Mexico against Mexico. I don't suppose he expected to be leaning on the back of a McLaren at this stage of the season.
No, that's right. Jenson Button is just in the points in 9th place, but Sergio Perez down in 12th place. And the two Mexicans, as you say, there is a bit of a gap. There's 20 seconds between them. First Grand Prix since 1968 the two Mexican drivers have appeared on the track together in Formula One, but weren't necessarily expecting them, as you say, to be one after the other in the Grand Prix. And Sauber of Gutierrez, of course, that's where Perez got his success last year. So we are into the latter stages of this race now. On to lap 51 out of 58. Nico Rosberg watches from the sidelines, out of the race, but watching to see whether Lewis Hamilton is going to pass Adrian Sutil for 5th place. They both have Mercedes power, but they've got different tyres. The Sutil's car's got the red-walled super soft tyre, which are younger, they're fresher than Hamilton's, but they don't last as long. So the question is here, is he going to have the grip?
He already looks like he's struggling. Very wide as he came out of turn 14. Look at the band of graining on the rear tyres. Hamilton's tyres, you can see very clearly, a lot clearer. So DRS will enable them to get a bit closer into turn 1. Yeah, Sutil a little bit hesitant on the power, so Hamilton will be in a position to make the pass. As they run down, he'll make him go the long way round into turn 3.
Hamilton having a go, he's down the outside, but Sutil defends to the inside, no way through just then. And Mark Webber also catching the pair of them in the Red Bull behind.
Good friends, of course, or certainly they were good friends, Sutil and Hamilton. And, well, friend battle, no friends on the racetrack. As you say, Webber getting right onto the back of Hamilton, and he'll be able to carry that momentum.
Oh, here comes Hamilton. Surely he's having a look down the inside. Sutil has to give way, and in doing so he's lost a lot of momentum, and this gives Webber every opportunity to come past. Tries to shut the door, or does he? No, he can't do it, and surely Webber's going to have the line into turn 11. No, he doesn't.
Didn't have the speed, so maybe a bit of strategic curves use there from Adrian Sutil, but what looked like it was a done pass. Mark had to get out of it. It's going to all be about the braking. This could be messy down into 13.
Oh, side by side, Sutil gives him good space. Good professional racing there from Sutil and from Webber, and Webber gets through and moves up into 6th
and
position.
Then Sutil goes very wide as he'd got on the marbles, and he's going to have a difficult time. Next up for him, or next behind him, is his teammate Paul di Resta. Now, he was 16 seconds or so behind, but look at the state of the tyres on Sutil. So brilliant job on the prime tyres, but he's going to have a monumental job to clean those up and carry out the last few laps.
He is definitely struggling out there, and it may well be his teammate who ends up beating him. Di Resta claimed the final point here last year on the very last corner of the last lap. He just snatched it from Jean-Eric Vergne. I think Di Resta might use the closing stages of this race to gain a place once again, but a little further up in the top 10.
Yeah, well, if you ever wanted to know what graining looks like, you can see the very clear changes in colour as the tyre, the surface of the tyre gets ripped across the tarmac, and you get that feedback of just feeling like you're walking on marbles. It just takes away the ability for the car to react to turning, and it spins up the wheels more easily on acceleration.
So Kimi Raikkonen leads by 7.2 seconds from this Ferrari of Fernando Alonso. Sebastian Vettel is a further 7 seconds behind. No, 8.9. Dropping away more, Sebastian Vettel, on that last lap. So really struggling in the Red Bull to maintain the pace in the latter stages of the race. Massa is 4th for Ferrari. 5th place is Hamilton. Then 6th place is Webber. But amazingly, Jean-Eric Vergne has just set fastest lap. 1:29.498 for the Toro Rosso, who made a recent pit stop, and he's in 11th place, some half a second behind Romain Grosjean. I wonder if Vergne's going to get that point that he missed out on last year when Di Resta got it from him, because he's certainly bearing down on the other Lotus.
Yeah, and Grosjean, a massive 67 seconds behind our race leader and his teammate Kimi Raikkonen. I don't recall seeing any particular incident for Grosjean, so certainly a lot slower total time for this Grand Prix.
So Kimi Raikkonen...
the cars in front are starting to struggle, so keep going. You're doing a good job. We may get opportunities at the end.
Yeah, well, I'm sure Perez will keep going. He's scored on both occasions. Well, he's finished in the top 10, I should say, in both occasions here in the past. Actually, the Saubers were disqualified 2 years ago for a very, very minor technical reason. But he has finished in the top 10, so he likes this Albert Park circuit. Still a lot of sparks coming up from the Lotus Day, which is interesting when it's so light on fuel that it's still sparking.
Well, it's because of this being a temporary track. It's quite a lot of crown. You don't see it so much on the television screen there, but it's one of the features of the Melbourne track as you move from left to right or right to left, that you go over that slight crowning in the tarmac, and it can really pull at the car. I think I might have an explanation for Grosjean being so far down. He's only a second behind Button, who clearly is making his car as wide as he possibly can. That's meaning that Grosjean's running a second or so slower than Raikkonen at this stage, just running to the pace of the car in front.
Yeah, that could be a very good reason. Button's not going to make it easy at all to get past. McLaren need whatever they can get out of this weekend, because, to be honest, it's been a horrible start to the season in terms of sheer pace from the brand new McLaren. There's so many hopes for it, of course. After it, last year's car finished with Button winning the final Grand Prix in Brazil, and yet they've changed the car probably more radically than most other teams. They've gone for a higher chassis at the front, they've gone for a different front suspension, and they're really struggling.
Yeah, indeed. As we get the slow-mo, you can see some pickup on those tyres as they make their way through turn one. And well, I'm not a betting man, but I wonder if anyone out there bet on a Lotus for victory, a Ferrari for second, and a Red Bull for third.
Well, yeah, I don't think many people will have done. Must just tell you, by the way, that Max Chilton is ahead of Guido van der Garde. You remember they've been having this tussle for a while, but actually that's changed a little bit. Max Chilton is now 17th, and he's 16 seconds ahead of Guido van der Garde. So at that sort of tail-end battle between the young teams, Bianchi's still leading it. He's in 15th for Marussia, then Charles Pic in the Caterham, then Max Chilton for Marussia, then van der Garde in the Caterham. But still pushing on hard is Kimi Raikkonen. The gap 6.1 seconds, so Alonso is picking that pace up again a little bit in these last couple of laps, but we are counting down towards the checkered flag.
Yeah, too little too late, I think, with this particular tyre, although the degradation is there. Its drop-off isn't anywhere near as brutal as the red-walled super soft. So Alonso exploiting what performance he has, always hunting down just in case Raikkonen has an issue, not leaving anything to chance. As we see that rear shot of the high-speed entry, turn 11 and 12, one of the fastest corners on this circuit. And obviously the car's getting faster and faster with each lap of this Grand Prix. More and more rubber getting embedded into the tarmac, less and less fuel on board.
Just having a quick look as it went past our window, David, I thought I saw two cars flash past in one, and they were. Grosjean and Jean-Eric Vergne went across the line with 0.0 seconds of a gap between them. And Jean-Eric Vergne is trying to get that final point, remember, so we will try and monitor that.
Well, so we may need to get if there's a 0.0 gap.
It is very, very tight. I wonder if we'll see him back ahead of him, in fact, when he comes past us next time. Kimi Raikkonen just keeping it all beautifully under control.
Well, Raikkonen just had a car in front of him, wrong wide, and Alonso almost piles into the back of the Caterham. Now, was that some rain on the circuit there?
That was Charles Pic in the Caterham, but he's just managed to deal with that.
La pace di Kimi è come la nostra, come la nostra.
Didn't quite catch that one, I'm afraid. Raikkonen still responding. He's gone personal best in the first sector as Raikkonen. Gap back up to 8.3 seconds. So Kimi probably lost a bit of time in the traffic on that previous lap, and now it's Alonso's turn to struggle past the slower cars. The fans up there on the edge of the golf course here at Albert Park, hopefully having a great time. The Australians might not have had the day they wanted in terms of Mark Webber and Daniel Ricciardo, but they're still having an entertaining time.
Yeah, I think actually what I saw on our other monitor we have here in the commentary box was actually the battle between Grosjean and Vergne. Vergne's taken a little trip through the gravel. I think he was in front of Grosjean, and he's just dropped about 3 seconds in that middle sector, so we'll probably get a replay of that coming up sometime soon as we get into the last 2 laps.
And this is the battle. Perez trying to take 10th place from Grosjean. These two, of course, hard young racers, and there were incidents between them last year. Perez didn't quite make that work, but both of them being a little cautious. Let's watch Grosjean as he comes down into the section behind the lake now. New fastest lap for Kimi Räikkönen, definitely responding to any pace that Alonso is showing. Grosjean, you would think, with a Lotus under him, would be able to do something similar, but he seems to be struggling a bit more to keep the McLaren there of Sergio Perez behind. Button is still in 9th place, by the way, still looking at getting some points. And also, Di Resta is only 3.4 seconds now behind Adrian Sutil. So we are going to see a bit of a last lap lunge, I think, from Paul Di Resta to try and get past his teammate. On their sort of reacquaintance, if you like. They were teammates 2 years ago. Hulkenberg then came into Force India last year. You've got a feel for Nico Hulkenberg today. He would have been the first car on the grid with that option to go for the medium tyre, as Sutil did, but with that fuel system problem, he never even got to the start of the race. Hulkenberg out of the first Grand Prix before it even began. But Kimi Räikkönen now coming around to start his final lap here in Australia. What a start to the season it is proving to be for Lotus. He's just got to keep it together now for one more lap. The gap 10.2 seconds back to Fernando Alonso, and that is a big margin, David. Lotus look like they're not just going to win this race, they're going to win it big time.
Well, they are indeed, but let's just cast our mind back to the third Grand Prix of last season. Nico Rosberg and the Mercedes won it big time, and then didn't manage to deliver the rest of the year. I sense it will be somewhat different for Lotus. Räikkönen, very mature drive, and it looks like he'll be able to just stroke it home. But Paul Di Resta was under 2 seconds behind his teammate Adrian Sutil in that battle of honour at Force India, 7th and 8th. Maybe we'll catch sight of that battle as Räikkönen pretty much is doing his, well, as I said earlier, stroke it to the flag. He's under no pressure from Alonso now, who's 11.5 seconds behind.
Eric Boulier there, just keeping an eye on Kimi Räikkönen. Is this the second Lotus victory in a fairly short space of time? Towards the end of last season, Kimi took his first victory for this team in Abu Dhabi, and to be honest, that was a little bit inherited because Lewis Hamilton was leading that race and had a technical problem with the McLaren he was driving then, and Kimi of course came through to take victory. Well, there is absolutely no way that today's race win has been inherited by Kimi Räikkönen. This is going to be a fully deserved victory by the Lotus team. Kimi Räikkönen wins the Australian Grand Prix. It's the second time he's won here in Melbourne. He won it in 2007. It's the first win for the Lotus name in Australia ever. Second place goes to Alonso, 12.4 seconds behind, and the reigning world champion, the triple world champion Sebastian Vettel, is beaten to third. But remember, podiums are what win titles, and he's still very much up there. Felipe Massa is going to come through in a fine 4th position here. Hamilton is going to finish in 5th place. He's some way further back, but Hamilton is behind, and it looks as though on his debut for Mercedes he's going to come home 5th. And Sutil and Di Resta, well, they're just finishing the lap. I think Sutil's got enough over Di Resta to hold on to his 7th place.
Okay, Kimi, absolutely fantastic job. Well done, mate. Save as much fuel as is possible on the in-lap, please. Absolutely superb, Kimi. Brilliant. Well done, mate.
Yeah, thanks everybody. I told you that the car is good. Thanks everybody. Great job.
What a great performance by the team. The Enstone-based team, which has well, it's appeared in different guises over the years, whether it's Tolman, Benetton or Renault. As Renault, they had victory last time here back in 2006. In fact, it's the 4th time this Enstone team has won here in Australia. But what a way to start the season. Absolutely magical. They looked after the tyre so well, and that was what made the difference. If you look...
Complimenti, complimenti. Ci siamo.
Good start to the season for Ferrari as well. Just going to say though, David, that of all of the leaders, the top 6, it was just Räikkönen who managed to get through this race on 2 pit stops.
And that was absolutely crucial. That saved him 22 seconds or so of lost track time as you come down the pit lane, and it was all about setting the car up to use the tyres. Bit of a journey of discovery for all the teams. No one honestly knew exactly how the tyres were going to react And, well, they'll have a lot more data to go on as they go into the next of the 18 Grand Prix remaining.
Kimi Räikkönen takes his 20th career win here in Australia. Fernando Alonso finishes second for Ferrari, Vettel third for Red Bull. Then Massa, Hamilton, Mark Webber and Adrian Sutil. A great drive on his comeback to Formula One ahead of his teammate Di Resta in 8th. Button in 9th, and he's broken the 1,000 points barrier now in his career. Grosjean in 10th place, Perez 11th and Jean-Eric Vergne in 12th. Gutierrez and Bottas, as well as Bianchi and Max Chilton, all finishing their debut Grand Prix. Well done to them. Tough conditions in qualifying in particular, and they've brought their cars home. We did see some key retirements though, notably Nico Rosberg in the Mercedes. Well, Kimi Räikkönen take that victory last year in Abu Dhabi, but as I say, this one a more impressive showing, if you like, from the whole team. They just seemed to have it under control once we'd worked out what they were doing in terms of strategy and the way they looked after those tyres, and still had great pace at the end ahead of the Ferrari, which had made 3 stops, and at the end there was just nothing Alonso could do to close down that gap. 12.4 seconds the winning margin in the end, and you've got to think that Kimi was backing it off on the last lap or two. He wouldn't have been pushing as hard as he could have done.
Quality driver, world champion of course at Ferrari, should have had more arguably during his McLaren years, and what a way to start the season.
Wonderful feeling for him. Alan Permain comes over to congratulate him. Really tremendous by the whole team there, and their testing performance was impressive, and there was a particular race run that Romain Grosjean did at Barcelona that made everybody sit up and take notice, but I don't think anyone quite imagined that they'd be as strong as this. And let's not forget, he didn't actually qualify that well. They were right down at the bottom end of the top 10 in qualifying, and Eric Boulier said to me that, you know, they got something slightly wrong. He said that wasn't where they should have been. They ended up 7th and 8th on the grid. Kimi was 7th, and he's come through from 7th to take victory.
Yeah, we saw just Jackie Stewart jumping out to congratulate Kimi. He was a key part of negotiating and persuading Lotus and Kimi to come together for his return in Formula One. Finger in many pies, of course. So that was a really impressive performance.
He might have come from 7th, but you'll be glad to know he hasn't broken your record of winning this race from furthest back on the grid. You did it from 11th, so...
thank you. Thanks for something.
Constructors' Championship, 2 cars add points together, and Ferrari actually lead that because they got 2 cars in the top 4, with Massa finishing in 4th place. And if you think back 12 months to where Ferrari were, and now here they are leading the Constructors in the first race, that's a brilliant start to the year for them.
It is, yeah. They've been very happy with the way they've worked through their testing program, and this certainly sets us up for a pretty exciting World Championship. Red Bull clearly had the qualifying, got the setup working, got the best out of the tyres on the Sunday morning as it was qualifying here. But the all-important points are handed out, and Alan Permain there, having, you know, he's been that team since Benetton days. He's the backbone of that engineering squad. A lot of quality within that team. They've won world championships, but Raikkonen's happy, he's won. Alonso's happy, they've had a great start to the season, he was competitive. Vettel was smiling in the background, so it's sort of joy and happiness all round.
Yeah, that's right. Well, world champions, all of them. Kimi with his 1 title, Fernando with 2, and Sebastian with 3. So 6 titles shared between these 3 guys who are coming up towards the podium area now. And that was a classy performance. What should we read into, just briefly, David, into Lewis Hamilton's 5th place finish for Mercedes there on his debut with the team?
Well, they've got speed. They didn't quite manage to get the tyres working on this day in history with the varying track temperatures, but we can expect them to be showing winning form, I'm sure, at some point. This will all be about the development race from this point on.
Yes, and that's a tough one. They've got Malaysia next week, of course. That's the next round of the World Championship. But even there, though, I'm sure teams will be bringing updated parts out to Kuala Lumpur, and we'll see for a different type of track what they do bring along. But let's see the drivers now coming out onto the podium to celebrate the first top 3 of the season.
That of the Lotus F1 team, the Finnish and British national anthems.
Impressive podium it is, with those 3 world champions there. Kimi Räikkönen certainly starting his season in style as he picks up the trophy, this wonderful sort of replica of a Cooper steering wheel, which is the traditional trophy, Jack Brabham Cooper steering wheel made into a trophy. It's a lovely trophy here in Australia, and you've held that on a couple of occasions, David.
It is indeed a beautiful trophy. They put time and effort into that, and very happy Alan Premain there representing the team. That's a class podium.
Do you think we're seeing amongst them, do you think we're seeing world champion of 2013?
If you look at the statistics, the champion has very often won the opening Grand Prix of the year. And, well, each one of those drivers up there, they ooze star quality. They lead the teams that they've driven for.
Sebastian Vettel, good start to the season for him. Not the dominance that we've sometimes seen from Red Bull, but it's a very satisfactory beginning to his campaign to try and win 4 championships in a row. Time for the champagne spray. We have our first winner of the 19-race championship. And in fact, on 6 out of the last 10 years, the winner here has gone on to win the title. Kimi Räikkönen for world champion? We'll have to wait and see. Lovely to see that Vettel, he's got a great smile. They are good friends actually, aren't they, Vettel and Räikkönen?
Yeah, they live not so far apart from each other in Switzerland. And a little cheers there from Alonso. Real sporting respect amongst those 3 drivers up there.
Yeah.
What I thought was nice that Räikkönen took a drink first and sprayed second.
Yes, getting the order right.
Priorities right. Well, they all look about the same size as well, so they're all popped from the mould if you want a world champion.
Yeah.
That's the height you need.
Yeah, that's right.
No heels, of course, on racing boots, unlike what the ladies are wearing who are delivering the next round of hats for the podium ceremony.
And the podium is going to be taken by Martin Brundle, veteran of 158 Grand Prix, of course, for many different teams. A couple of second places in the Italian Grand Prix of 92 and Monaco 94.
Remember, we are live on TV and watch our language.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. What an epic day of Formula One we've had. Qualifying and racing all in one day. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your support. And now on the podium, we have 3 world champions. What a fantastic race. First, I'm going to step up and have a quick word with Kimi. Kimi, you made the two-stop strategy worked today for you very well indeed.
Yeah, that was our plan before the race, and I was pretty confident that the tires will be okay. I have had a good car all weekend, so no issues with the tires at all. So I thought it should be easy to do it, and I got a good start and all worked well.
So when you were sitting on the grid today, were you thinking, I can win this race?
I had doubts because, of course, it's the first race, so you don't really know how it's going to go, how the tires will be. I didn't do any long runs in the winter, really, so but I knew that I have a good car, so I had a kind of feeling that it's going to be a good race, but you have to get through the first laps and then go from there.
And you did a 1 minute 29.2, the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, just before the end. You're just having a little bit of fun?
No, I mean, Fernando was catching me at some point, and when I was taking a bit more easy, and then there was some traffic, so I just wanted to make sure if the rain comes or something happens, we have a bit more gap, and I was still taking it pretty easily. So, I mean, like I said, the car has been very good all weekend, and it was a pretty nice race, not so difficult.
Fernando, second place, how are you feeling about that?
Fantastic, obviously. It was thank you. It was a fantastic race for us, fighting all through the race, and big thanks to the fans all weekend. We feel sad yesterday when we postponed the qualifying for today because they were on the grandstand with the rain, with the windy conditions, and at the end we didn't run. So today we had to put a good show for everybody, and I think we did it because the race was action every lap, and I personally enjoy. Obviously, it was. At the end, a little bit sad not to be able to win the race, but Kimi was fantastic today, the Lotus car as well, and we need to congratulate them for a fantastic race.
And you made some pretty bold moves when you came out of the pits after your stops. You really had to push with Adrian Sutil, and generally you had to push hard for that.
Yeah, it was not easy race. At the beginning, traffic with Sebastian and Felipe, and then traffic with Sutil, some back markers as well, that it was some tricky moments, but at the end, as I said, extremely happy. We had a very difficult start of the season 2 years ago and last year as well, and this year is very different. We feel much more optimistic. The car is responding well. We are competitive, so we have a very interesting season ahead of us.
But isn't it worrying that they could do two stops? I'm assuming you couldn't do a two-stop race?
It is a worry, yes. Obviously, Lotus did a very good job, and Kimi was driving fantastically all through the race, and he managed to do two stops. So we need to analyze what we can do for the next race. We have only 4 days to work in the car and to prepare next race, and we will be again, I think, a tough opponent.
Okay, I'm going to have a word now with third place man Sebastian Vettel. Sebastian. Maybe only third today, but the crowd are obviously very appreciative of the job that you did. But what happened to the Red Bull pace we were expecting?
Well, I think first of all we can be happy with today. Obviously, we wanted more. Clearly, when you start from pole, you want to win as well. But I think we could see after a very good start, good first 2-3 laps, that the tires were falling apart and we couldn't go as long as other people. So congratulations to Lotus and especially to Kimi. I think they did the best job today. A little bit of a surprise when I saw on the pit board, obviously, that I was lacking one position to count because I knew that Fernando passed us at the stop, but I didn't know where the other car was coming from. But I think they had incredible pace. Same goes to Ferrari. I think, we were third quickest today in the race, and very happy to get third place.
And do you think it was just the conditions, the track temperatures, or are you seriously worried about the pace of Lotus and Ferrari?
No, I'm not worried. I think, you have to admit sometimes that other people are faster, and I think we can be very happy today. We had a great qualifying session this morning, and this afternoon, unfortunately, didn't quite work the way we would have liked. But it's a long season, a long start, a long way ahead of us. So good points to start. Surely we wanted a little bit more, but there's no reason to be disappointed.
You didn't win the first race in 2010 or 2012. You went on to win the World Championship, so I guess it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, I think there's always statistics that can work for you and can work against you, but at this stage, it was very good fun today. Tricky to manage the tires. but very happy to be on the podium here. It's always a nice Grand Prix, and yeah, looking forward now to next week.
One quick word then with our winner, Kimi Räikkönen. Finally, Kimi, you lead the World Championship. You had 2 years away rallying, you came back, won a race last year and did a great job, but here you are leading the championship again. How does that feel?
I mean, it feels good, but it's only after one race, so it doesn't really change our aim and our work for this year. I mean, definitely we are happy with the win, but there's an awful lot to do, try to win in the end the championship. So we seem to have a good car here, and hopefully it works well in the next races also.
Thank you to these 3 drivers for a wonderful afternoon of motor racing. We're running again, of course, just in a few days' time for the Malaysian Grand Prix.
3 world champions on the podium, driving for 3 different constructors in Formula One. The 2013 season is an enticing prospect.
Drive safely with Allianz Insurance. Allianz is an official global partner of Formula One.